Bwana will bake it better for any type of occasions. If it's not cake Bwana, then it's not cake. Order yours now on 0975 145 002. 0975 145 002. Cakes by Cake Bwana.
Looking for a modern security company that offers comprehensive security solutions? Then BlackRock Security Services Limited is the company that will provide that fast-growing high-tech security protection and innovation you need. Our service delivery and implementation are fundamental to our impressive record of accomplishments. We are a professional, dedicated, qualified, and experienced security service company.
We managed to galvanize a lot of support around and ensured that the people came to hear the message that they should have heard. And I'm happy to report that Samfia is now pro-opposition. It is now not a place where people can take lies and expect to get out with it. So congratulations to all those that made it happen, but congratulations to Zambian people for heeding the call to come and listen to the message of hope which we gave on that particular day.
Right. And
this time in that fashion, and they were threatened. Whoever will allow Karaba to come on this radio program is going to be hacked. So they were all terrified, and I told them, let them come back if they want. But I want to say thank you very much to Bishop Edwin Mulandu. I think the bishop was very resolved. He said this behavior is uncalled for, and the following day he went personally to report the issues at the police station. So we are following through to try and see what will happen to those panga voting cadres, whether the police are going to enforce the law or whether they are going to be let scot-free because the UPND cadres, we are yet to see. But one thing that we sent clearly to those cadres was that we as citizens first, we are not going to be intimidated. We are not going to be stopped by anybody trying to use unorthodox methods of using pangas. That is not going to scare us away. They say pafo abantu, pashala abantu. We are the ones Zambia is counting on. The people must know that we have to talk for them. And no amount of intimidation is going to stop us from talking for the people. Because that is the job that we have chosen. We will do it regardless of the odds.
Let me take you back to Samfia, where, yes, you had a very successful rally and you were supported by some UCA members, in particular, one of the members of the COP, that's Council of Presidents, the 60th Republican President, Dr. Edgar Chagwa Lungu, was with you, and you made him to be your guest speaker. I'm raising this particularly to begin to speak to your seemingly newly found special relationship with him, which doesn't seem to sit well with a number of people. I've kept hearing and reading on social media that people can't trust you because you seem to be working with the former president whom you walked away from. Maybe the two of you may have reconciled, and people don't understand the special relationship that you are currently enjoying. And also it would appear that some members within the former ruling party don't feel very comfortable with your association, your association with the former president. I'd like you to speak to these things because we keep seeing them popping up on social media every so often.
First of all, I would like to answer your question from the perspective of people not being happy with me associating with President Lungu, especially from the Patriotic Front. That is not my problem. And I think that is not the problem of the former president. We have agreed that there are certain situations that call for unity. There are certain times when my own personal differences should not subdue the will and the good of the nation. So yes, some people will not like it that me and the former president are working together within COP. That will not disturb us. That will not bother us. For those who are peddling articles, who are writing stories against me and saying Harry has said this, you know, like after the same rally, there was a statement which the former president made. And there's an article which was written on my behalf that Harry Kalaba said he was almost grabbing the mic. So when the journalist on Radio Kasama, when I was in Northern Province, was asking me 2 days ago, I was shocked that such a lie could be concocted because nothing of that sort happened. But people would want to draw blood where they shouldn't be blood drawn. And why people want me and the former president not to work together, it's only them that can explain their apprehension. President Lungu during the rally made it very clear that we are going to work together and that we will not allow anybody to come in between us and in between the WUKA partners, because what is before us is bigger than the interests of those individuals who only want to acquire or achieve their own selfish intentions. Yes, sir, I resigned from President Lungu's government. And I said I was not comfortable to work with him or to continue being minister at that time. The truth of the matter is that is not the reason that should now make me stop working with the former president. I don't think that is the way it should be. The former president and I are working in the opposition. He was president when I resigned, Republican president. The former president now is in the opposition with us. He has seen that certain things that were happening in his government should not have happened the way they happened. There is enormous wisdom that the former president has, having been president of the republic and now being in the opposition. It goes without saying that we all have to benefit from that wisdom. I have not said I have abandoned.
They announced an increase in the cost of living, now standing at 10,669, you know, for a family of 5 or 6 thereabout here in Lusaka. When you look at what's happening in the economy and when you look at this kind of indicator of 10,000 per month for a family of 5 or 6, what comes to mind? And you're interacting with these people actually who are affected by the economy. How are they managing, and what should we do going forward perhaps to address these challenges?
You know, it's very sad what's happening in our country. Clearly, even the 10,600 plus you are talking about is even an underestimation. In a country where we are in near darkness, it's difficult to survive. Where businesses have collapsed and government doesn't seem to be in a hurry to do anything about it. Families are struggling, and struggling big time. It is sad that nothing is happening. And when you look at the employment rate in this country, it is below par. When you look at the salaries that people are getting, they are not being increased to the levels that they should be increased because the economy is stagnant. So people are struggling. And the very few who are getting a bit of income have got to look at the extended family, given our cultural implications in this country. Zambia has never experienced such poverty as we are experiencing now. We have never known people struggling with lack the way people are struggling now. Today, and I've been saying this, today, abantu leyelo, munomba town muno, abantu nga bakuchirilo, ekulesa ngwe fe akuli. People pastor when they go for funerals. That's where now. Baya no tuma lunch box abantu. Emo baya longa ni repo and cabbage kuchirilo. So that in the evening their families can go and eat kumayanda. That's how people are living. So you can find that people when they come back from burying kufidilo. I attended one funeral in Chagwa. I lost my aunt. And when we came back from burying my aunt, the food that was prepared for the mourners who had been there with us for some time. We didn't even know where people came from. People came and queued and ate the food, and some were getting the food because that is how bad the economy has become.
Talking about the economy...
And we don't seem to be getting out of the quagmire that we're in.
Talking about the economy being bad and the government doing something about it. The UPND this month just clocked 3 years in power, from the day that the Zambian people gave them the privilege to preside over the affairs of this nation on that day of 12th August 2021. One of the key and biggest promises they made was a very spirited fight against corruption. Do you think now, with hindsight, 3 years down the line, they're living the talk, they're walking the talk as far as the fight against corruption is concerned?
The UPND is a very corrupt government. The UPND is extremely corrupt, and they can't fight corruption. First of all, the point of departure for the UPND was very wrong. They allowed the Anti-Corruption Commission and the watchdog institutions to fall under the president. Why did he do that? That was to compromise those investigative wings. Because instead of prosecuting, instead of investigating, they are now settling political scores. If they just don't like you, you're in trouble. Is that the way the fight against corruption should have been? This government had a chance to fight corruption genuinely. But because of the hate within the leaders of the UPND, because of the resentment that they could have towards certain people in this country, they decided to take the fight against corruption personal. They decided certain people needed to dance to the music. You don't fight corruption like that. You defeat the fight against corruption. You make people lose confidence in the fight against corruption. And what do? They themselves now have brought in corruption that we have never witnessed in this country. Yes, there was a problem of corruption in the past government, but not to this scale that we are seeing under the UPND. Those who are in PF who are stealing and doing corruption, elders. These are serious elders when it comes to corruption. These are the fathers of corruption. They're not even joking because their corruption is even complex. What they began doing, first of all, was to ensure that they begin dealing with fertilizer contracts. Gave their friends. Fuel contracts, gave their friends. It came to any lucrative contract, they had to take and hijack. They went in the mining sector, connected their friends and got the mining rights and so on and so forth. Everywhere where they smell money, they are there like a vacuum cleaner, wanting to get everything. So that is the problem which we have. This government cannot fight corruption because it starts with the president himself. He has failed to declare his assets. How can you fight corruption? He doesn't want the public to know how much he's making. He doesn't want the public to know how much he came with in office. He has restricted us so that we can continue thinking he's a billionaire. And yet the deals that are happening in government have never been seen before. That is the problem we have. We have lost the fight against corruption because even when officers are called to the Anti-Corruption Commission, for as long as they are connected to the powers that be, you saw what happened when the Speaker of the National Assembly went to the ACC offices, began intimidating the officials that at the Anti-Corruption Commission. That thing should never happen because they should allow the Anti-Corruption Commission never to be intimidated. But once the ACC gets to be intimidated, once the DEC gets to be intimidated, then the watchdog institutions of governance collapse. And once that happens, the country is in for a free fall. This is what has happened.
So you're saying there's a total collapse of the systems that should fight corruption?
Total collapse with the systems that should fight corruption because they're intimidated. They are not free. What should happen is that leave those quasi-government institutions, like the Anti-Corruption Commission, leave them free. Leave them independent so that they can fight corruption to the core. But when you limit them, when you tell them Stop announcing the names of people you are investigating. That is a problem. I know that under Mr. Sata, who I served as minister, who I served under as minister, once the ACC starts investigating you, you were dropped. Why was he doing that? He was doing that because so that we can continue creating jobs in there. But no, he chose to be on the side of the business because, as you know, he's a businessman. He goes on the side of the business and decides that what is going to happen is that we'll be pumping finished petrol, finished diesel using the Tazama and getting these tankers coming in the country. That is the mistake that he has made. Because just with those decisions I'm talking about, he condemned the economy to a place where it will be difficult to retrieve it. And then he says he's going to the IMF to help him. I've always argued that the IMF tailored programs have helped very limited countries. And Zambia as a country has its own unique problems. We should have picked examples from Rwanda, how they had their own solutions tailored around the challenges that they had. No, they go to the IMF. And people went in buses to receive him from at the airport that he has managed to have deals in France. Nothing has happened. We still see the price of milling meal rising. We still see the price of fuel rising, despite the promises that were given. Nothing has come down. Fertilizer is still a problem. This is September, strictly speaking. Fertilizer has still not been distributed to the farmers. When will it be distributed? This is September. Tomorrow or the other day you'll be hearing ERB telling you that they are increasing the price of the fuel commodities. Every month people can't plan. And we are saying our president is an economist. This is, for the first time in the history of this country, we are having maize that is coming with chemicals that we have never seen before, you know. And the president does not mind about that. He chooses to go on the copper belt where he was giving his friends a KCM to run. That is the challenge that we have. So the economist that we have is not an economist that is helping the local people. It's an economist that is helping other nations to benefit from our resources. The Zambian people themselves who voted for him are struggling. How can you explain that ever since he came in government, and is not even making any attempt to address that issue? He tells you, no, we'll be selling ZNS midi meal in ShopRite stores. How many stores have got that same midi meal which is cheaper? And when it comes, around to 60 years after independence, are still queuing up for Ubunga. And we think we are having an economist as president. I think it is not fair to treat people in this fashion. And the problem that we have with our leaders here is that they keep on telling stories, lies, lies, lies. As you know, the president lies a lot. Almost everything that he says has to be cross-checked because he lies in the morning, he lies every time. He will tell you he will do this, he will do the exact opposite. He will tell you this is the police position, he will do something different. Why should we live in a country like that? Why lie to your own people who gave you confidence? People who put you in office, why lie to them?
You've talked about mili meal, which obviously, yes, as you have argued, has been,
which it should not primarily import. We should have kept our own strategic reserves, which they found. And what did they do when they found the maize? They decided to sell. Very sad scenario. Now we have what we have, and they're not coming out in the open to tell us whether this is imported maize, but we all know that there's something fishy going on. Because this government is not trying to tell the Zambian people the truth. How will we know? How will we know? We are struggling to find out the truth. Bantu. But President should have taken interest in this matter, together with his team. But you can see that they have not taken interest in the matter. They don't care. They don't care at all.
The members of public have been complaining, and even you in opposition have been complaining about the new development where cadres sue the state, and a lot of rewards are being given in form of money. Just yesterday or thereabout, we heard that about 10.2 million was paid out to UPND cadres, on the premise of forced imprisonment. This is not the first time. There are many other cases where consent judgments have been entered, and we're not talking about small money. This is in an economy that is still bleeding and
led by an economist.
The economy is bleeding and there is very tight liquidity, but money is being found to give to cadres. Perhaps money not being found to repair, cancer, machines at UTH. As a leader and the president in waiting, are these some of the decisions you're going to do? There were those who were trying to attack you in Mpika with machetes. You think some of your members are also going to sue your government for this kind of thing?
These people are not serious. And I feel bad for the people of Zambia. I honestly sympathize with our people because the priorities of the UPND are not there. They are finding money to give to themselves, to share. And yet when you go in hospitals today, there are no medicines. People are only being given prescriptions. I was in UTH last week. People are only receiving prescriptions. And they are supposed to go and look for money to buy the medicines. And yet the government has got the money to give their cadres. Yet the government has got the money to say whoever will find JJ Banda will be given 2 million kwacha. It clearly tells you that where their priorities are, they are not near the people that put them in power. No. The priorities are not there. Because if the priorities were there, at least we could have seen them use that money responsibly to buy medicines in hospitals. But that is not their preoccupation. If they had priorities for the people of Zambia, we could have seen them use that use that money to do boreholes for our people who are going miles and miles looking for water in these villages where I'm coming from. But the priorities are not there. So they are sharing money. And the problem with our leadership, especially our president, especially the president, Mr. Hichilema, is that all he wants is just to do politics. Everything he does is laced with politics. He wants to look more popular. He wants to have more Facebook likes. He wants to, that is the problem. He has not settled in the job. All he is doing is campaigning through and through. And he will tell lies. Even when he's in government, he's just telling lies after lies, lies after lies. He was in Northwestern. He was saying he wants to build a university here in Zambezi. And the people of Zambezi will see that he will never build that university because just after talking the way he talked, he even forgot what he told them. But that's not the way you run government. Take your people seriously for once.
Tonight, I would like you to interact more with the Zambian people. Those will be calling in and I'll be opening phone lines. But I've got 3 more questions that I'd like you to answer. And then I'll ask the Zambian people to call you and ask you some questions, to help me ask you questions. Zambia is now experiencing 21 hours of load shedding. And it is envisaged that this might actually become worse. Would you recommend that the government, what would you recommend that government mitigates this kind of situation where we are? We are a black continent in Zambia.
To run a minimum, that's what he said, a minimum of 20 liters a day, just for us to run the activities of the station. Now, that is a cost that was never budgeted for by this institution. So, the cost of doing business in this country is very high. Why should Zambia, now to answer your question, what will CF do? Or what would I have done if I were the president? I know, Pastor, that Zambia currently is exporting about 80 megawatts of power to Botswana. Zambia is exporting another 80 megawatts of power to Namibia. We are exporting 100 megawatts into South Africa. We are exporting about 120 megawatts of power into the DRC Congo. Why should we be exporting power when we don't have power ourselves? If I were a president, because the experts this afternoon briefed me, the energy experts, they briefed me that when the UPND government was renewing these contracts, they went ahead without inserting the force majeure provision in the contracts. Force majeure provision is basically a provision which enables government-to-government transactions to be a bit flexible, in that if there is something which has extraordinarily happened in a country and you did not budget for it, you can invoke that provision to cancel the contract. But I'm told the UPND was so excited, they did not want to even do that. If I were a president, I would have gotten into Gaborone, had a chat with my colleague and told him, look, my country is slipping into darkness. I want our colleagues working here in charge of the energy sector and in Zambia to work out a method of stopping the exporting of power, at least for a period of 6 months, so that we can just go through this difficult terrain and then we can continue. I'm sure that's why we have bilateral relations. That's why they are ministers of foreign affairs. You can even use your foreign minister to go and advance that argument. But that is not happening. They would have gone to Namibia and said we are stopping this exercise, because there is no load shedding there in Namibia right now, because we are giving them 80 megawatts of power every day when we don't have it here. Why should Zambia be experiencing 21 hours of load shedding? Abantu amalight yaya 05 yabwera amalight pa 02 futhi 05 yaya the whole day I'm going to amalight. How do you buy your relish and store? How do you run your economy muchalo, where now the cost of living is so high? And this government is not feeling for our people. That is the problem. I was trying to call a colleague for the last 2 days. I could not get through the line and I was getting worried. I even told the colleague to say, no, I am worried because I was trying to call you and you are not picking. He's busy talking to, but this is what he should have done. He should have already started talking to everybody. Diplomacy, especially economic diplomacy, requires you to talk to everybody without exclusion.
I see you look very passionate and charged around the power issue.
I feel bad because it is affecting the ordinary people. People are dying in hospitals. People are dying in homes. People are failing to live their normal lives because the rate of thefts compound because people are in darkness. People are getting in their homes as early as 17 hours. But if you look in a country where you are celebrating 60 years of independence, it's not right.
I've been made to understand, reading on this, that prior to 2021 elections, we were experiencing load shedding, but it was only limited to
4 hours. Yeah,
4 hours.
Yeah.
We have now grown that to 17 to 21 hours. Where do you think we have gone wrong as a country, and particularly the decisions that may have been made by this government to move from 4 hours to 17 to 21 hours? What do you think could have happened in this?
My interaction with the experts this afternoon, I revealed that the challenge which we had prior to 2021 was that we are having 4 hours of load shedding. Had we maintained that same 4 hours of load shedding, we would have still been going through right now until March next year without having a challenge, because it would have been constant. But when they had stopped, they began overusing the waters, which have now depleted. That is one problem which they had. The second problem is that when they won elections, they increased the rate of selling power. So when you begin selling what you don't have, again you put pressure on Kariba, you put pressure on Kafuel Lower and Kafuel Upper, you put pressure on your limited hydropower conservation that you have. That's what the problem is. They did not stick to the 4 hours load shedding, and they went ahead to increase the selling of electricity to other countries without even putting in a proviso or force majeure. I think that is wrong. That is wrong. It's carelessness of the highest order.
The government has...
I mean, they're keeping us in darkness like this, keeping people in darkness like this. That is not correct. A leader should be able to deal with this scenario the way it is. If I were him, I would not even move out of this country until I deal with it. But he's traveling out tomorrow. Why? Because what do you mean? This is the president who has told you everything he has said is doing the exact opposite. With the Public Order Act, he has done the exact opposite. This is the president who has done the exact opposite. Even with the issue of mid-meal, he said, "Ubunga buka chipanga na isam garasa part 50 kwacha, abantu wale sto bunga 400 kwacha. Valitantamino bungo wa 270 kwacha." When before they were buying cheaper meal. This is the president who told you, when I come, I'm going to reduce the price of fuel. And Y minus C formula, and where is that formula which he was writing? So when he does things like that, it is you, it is you who are saying, even this has done this. For us who know him to be the lying man that we know him for, we are not shocked, because that is his nature, and he doesn't even care.
You're free to call now. I've opened the line officially. Here is the first caller on the line. Good evening and welcome to State of the Nation. Your name and where you're calling us from. Sorry, when you call, please make sure that you reduce the volume on your TV set. Otherwise, we're getting echo. While we're waiting for the caller, here is I wanted to read you a message, but there's a phone call here. Good evening, caller. Welcome to State of the Nation. Your name and where you're calling us from. Wino Mlishan. Kokabwe Bachanda Tembe. Please go ahead.
Bantu bakalaba isho bana ndafyafa twafyumva nomba ndefwe bachiteko advice bakalaba takulioko bakaya pati yawo tabakwatana ngulikansela kubahati ifwe chilengele ukuthi tule mu position nathi chimona fwe bantu kutela chilala ushebakalaba tabakwatana nzakumana tena utinango chilala bakalaba katushen fekeni muntu ya bombe
I'm saying, Mr. Kalaba, what is your advice to your brother H.H. Gibson Biemba from Kaoma? This one is saying, however, President Tulandire Niko, Tuachula if we kuno, Joseph Mlenga watching you from Mufulira. This one says, good evening. Okay, it's a long message. Good evening, Bahari. You made a very big mistake to join hands with Edgar Lungu, whose regime was characterized with so many evil things, such as cadres having more power than police officers, failing to remit loan deductions to lending institutions, gassing, buying of councillors, and so on and so forth. So basically, someone says you made a mistake. And this one says, Avoba HH vundavwa kwenda ukafye ukupanga fye indalama wakalava mulifye bwino sana ifyo mule veva tuvote ilirine mwe. Quite some deep bemba there. Maybe let me ask you to respond to those.
I will begin responding to the first caller. I just can't remember his name, and he was saying that there's nothing that I'm saying here because I should leave Mr. Hakainde Hichilema to work. I want him to tell me, where have I gone wrong by me pointing out the issues of load shedding? When he says that how come he is calling and he wants me to respond to what he's asserting? Chinga chakutira limo tuleba serious nefinto bachira bomfe chiwe mbabo limotule ba serious nolo le tuma ku TV station ufilo waba serious wakutumala because ababa le ntumina phone yaba balenje bathi kuba athi tamakwata support, it's okay, but elo mle ntumina phone muli load shedding imomo bale tuma phone nishi mwate menoko afu abantu abarechita enjoy kula batumbilikisha ukunkanya pokulya imwena mwika na family yenu olo imwebe ni mwatumine phone tabamile kana bakashiwe no bali mupepi bale ni batimwe efira mieba pantu mulimu afita tamwishiwe na marentos month and na ipwaino tamula sonkera nenganda ni mwe mule ituma kutwala akanwa twika na tondolo ngatwalanda pati yo mule amba makumba. It doesn't work like that. We have to talk for the people of Zambia. Elo abalela ndokutila yo you should now join Mr. Hakainde so that bishabantu abashani. What's wrong with our people? Understand that even though you love Mr. Hakainde Hichilema, you can love him just like I love him as well, but ulusa pato lwabu ukateka na lumukulila ulia fotumu wafweko.
Good evening, Mr. Kalaba. We are watching. Mr. Kalaba, keep on speaking for the voiceless. I am Savior from Kafiwe. All right, maybe a few more messages and then we wrap up. President Kalaba, are you planning to win elections anytime soon? If elections were held today, honestly, how many seats would you scoop? If you are serious, please set up structures throughout the country, and joining hands with some people will not help you. All right.
Now,
I thought joining hands with people is what would help you.
Yes, but they're saying that joining hands with people is not going to help me. You know, it's really funny because on the other hand, you are telling me that I should not work with some people. I should work alone. That's when I'm going to have those councillors. And yet, where I have been going, visiting, everybody is telling me that we need to hold hands. We need to work with other people. That is why we have subjected ourselves to the demand of our people, the demand of the electorate, to work with everybody. And so, when it comes to forming structures, I'm just coming back from Kasama. I was in Impika. I was in Lungu. Just after the rally in Mansa, in Samfia. I was in Lungu, I was in Impika, I was in Kasama. Why was I in those places? It's because we are looking at strengthening our structures in readiness for the elections in 2026.
Is there hope, lastly from me, is there hope for this country and the economy? And is UKA the answer to the challenges that Zambians may be facing today?
Of course, there is hope for Zambia. For as long as we live and we breathe, there shall still be hope. Because we know that a leadership is coming. That is forthright. A leadership is on the way. That is going to deal with the challenges that we are going through today. So hope is definitely there, Pastor. And I can stay here and bear with and tell you that most of these challenges we are having are self-inflicted. They're challenges that could not even have arisen if people with some expertise, experience, were in the steering wheel, were managing the affairs of this country. Is UKA the solution? What is the solution? Yes, is UKA, because this is what the people want. The people have asked us to come together, and we have come together under the auspices of the United Kwacha Alliance. It is a people's demand, and because it is a people's demand, so it is the answer to the current challenges that we are going through. It is the answer to taking us out of the current economic quagmire that we are in. It is the answer to remove us from the regionalism that we are experiencing. It is the answer to remove us from the slave wages that the civil servants are getting, the slave wages that our workers, the security guards, the maids are all getting. It is the answer because it is a people's movement. And so it will be respected and cherished as such.
Citizen First President Harry Kalaba, my guest on State of the Nation tonight, and we've been looking at the question, Zambia's economic challenges, where is the hope? Thank you very much for watching. Be sure to join us next week on Thursday 23rd on this channel. And for those of you that may have joined a little later, this delayed broadcast will be repeated at 10 tomorrow morning. The Lord bless you and keep you. Remember to stay safe. Shalom, shalom.